I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring your ass.
These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
Oh, Finchy. Drinks on Finchy this summer, Judd Zulgad. Drinks on Finchy. 4-year extension.
Did you see the picture that a guy tweeted out last night of Finchy at an outdoor table at a bar? And I tweeted him back. I said, what bar is that? I'm just because like Finchy, you see him in these pictures of very like normal bars. You know, they're not like 5-star restaurants. Yeah. And he goes, it was his or it was my birthday and he was there. And
like together?
No, he just saw him and sat down and drank beers with him, he said. But he said it was Cuzzies. And I said, this is why I love Finchy.
Just like inside at Cuzzies?
No,
or
it looked like
back?
It looked like in the back, outdoors. It was summertime. But this is why I like him. Like he goes out on his boat. He's just sort of a normal dude.
He's a Cuzzies type of guy. No?
Yeah, I like that though.
Salt of the earth.
Exactly right. Drinking some beers, getting a new contract, doing a really good job. So yes.
You know, we asked him, he was on Flagrant Howls. Was it last summer or it may have been, was it 2 years ago? I think it was last summer with Kyle and me. And we asked him, like, what do you're a basketball lifer. You're probably grinding a lot of film, but what do you do for fun? He's like, I mean, I've been known to go on someone's boat with a couple of beers. I'm a simple guy. Give me a couple of beers, some water.
He went Delman. Yeah. What do you like to do in your off time?
Drink.
Chris Finch, 7 days older than me.
Wow. Just a couple of legends at their craft.
A couple of salt of the earth guys that like a beer, like a simple life.
Just give me a game and a beer. And
Finchy and I were like brothers.
Yeah. So, well, we'll see how kind you are to Finchy here because we figured in honor of Chris Finch signing an extension, and we can talk more about what that means. I will say that it's nice to have some stability here where you have a coach that's been here for a few years and now he's locked in for, I mean, obviously coaches get fired, but he doesn't look like he's anywhere near a hot seat in the next couple of years. So it's nice to have some franchise stability, but you have gone through the exercise of ranking every single coach in Timberwolves history.
First of all, I can't recall doing this before. And if that is correct, I can't believe we've never done this before. This was one of the most interesting exercises. So there have been 14 coaches. There have been 16 different coaches, 16 coaches, 14 people. Flip twice. McHale actually twice.
McHale twice.
McHale twice. I also went to the research card. I didn't realize, I guess I'm not shocked here. 7 times the Timberwolves have made an in-season coaching change.
Wow. Hold on a second. Okay. In-season coaching change. So Ryan Saunders.
Yep. I've got them all.
Dwayne Casey.
I've got them all here. Yep. Yep.
Flip Saunders.
Yep.
Well, Sidney Lowe took over. Was it Bill Blair?
Mm-hmm.
Bill good. Blair's on the list, right? Because Sidney Lowe took over for Bill Blair, right?
No. It was a different coach for him. Around the same time period, but no.
Oh, Mussy?
No. Mussy actually survived.
Who got fired? Seasons. So Sidney Lowe is an interim coach, right?
Yes, he was fired. It's weird. If you go back, he was an interim coach that was retained till the next August.
Okay.
So yes. I think he might have been. It's a weird one, but he did replace a coach. It was not Bill Blair. Bill Blair was actually 95, 96 after Sidney Lowe.
So who the hell did Sidney Lowe?
The second Wolves coach, the Boston Celtics guy that we thought was going to be the answer, Jimmy Rogers.
Oh, Jimmy Rogers. Okay. Well, now let's get to the list here after we shout out EcoFun here real quick. EcoFun Motorsports, your summertime fun headquarters. For the pavement, they carry a full line of scooters, motorcycles, ATVs, side-by-sides, electric bikes. For fun on the water, and you can see here on the YouTube channel, this is Judd and his friends frolicking around his pond in the western suburbs here.
Right in my backyard.
Diving in off the watercraft, 2024 Kawasaki and Yamaha watercraft. So there's 2 locations for EcoFun Motorsports. There's the Forest Lake location, which also includes watercraft, and then the Burnsville location. Tell them that the SKOR North network of podcasts sent you in. Tell them Flagrant Howl sent you in. EcoFunMotorsports.com as well to snoop around Summertime Fun headquarters.
Just say, I want the Sports Dad special. They'll know exactly what it is because I've got everything's in my backyard on the pond right now. So
yeah, they'll know exactly which brand new watercraft to
like,
hook up to your truck.
What?
So, okay, these are 16. You said 16.
Well, it's 14 people. There have been 2 guys who have done it twice.
So 14 Wolves coaches ranked. Let's start with the bad news and work our way up.
And actually, this is one of the rare lists where the bottom and the top are equally as fun.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's so bad at the bottom that
Can I guess who the worst one is?
Sure.
It has to be Kurt Rambis.
Yes.
Kurt Rambis?
Kurt Rambis is number 14. So 2 years, 164 games, inconceivable 32 and 132 record. That is a winning percentage of 195. And here's the scary thing. He is one of 2 Timberwolves coaches with a winning percentage below 200. I would think, again, that's almost impossible. But it's not impossible with number 13 on the list joining Kurt Rambis. Number 13, the aforementioned Jimmy Rogers.
Jimmy Rogers. Took
over for Mussy. Spent a full season here. And then was 6-23 in 92-93 when he was dismissed. 111 games, 21 wins, and 90 losses. That is actually worse than Rambis. 189 winning percentage, but I still rank Rambis 14th and Jimmy Rogers 13th.
Brutal. I mean, okay, on Rambis. So he comes in, and I remember because he was like David Kahn's that was the first hire. That was because Kahn inherited a Randy Whitman. No, I'm sorry. Whitman took over, then McHale, then they both got blown out.
It's so convoluted.
But it was like a blank slate, and Rambis was David Kahn's first crack at who is your franchise head
Who's
coach.
Your coach.
And the way it was sold, if I remember, this is 15 years ago now, is Rambis was basically a Phil Jackson disciple because, first of all, he had Lakers in his blood going back decades.
Yes.
Friends with Phil Jackson. He was on Phil Jackson's coaching staffs. He was kind of like maybe even the second or main lead assistant on. Well, Tex Winter was.
And he looked very smart too. He had cleaned up his act. The hair was gone as far as like the bushy hair.
Yeah.
The goggles clearly were gone. And so he looked like a professor. So it's like, oh man, he's going to be like the professor of basketball, like Phil is.
And he was going to be a Zen master and bring all the magic. And he was atrocious. And his fingerprints lately have been all over the Lakers ownership and front office because him and his wife are friends with the Buss family. And it's, oh my gosh.
Yes. And what's interesting about 13 and 14, despite the huge difference in the years, because Rogers was the second coach after Mussy. And the sad thing is, Rogers' lack of success would have been ideal for an expansion team. We'll get to Mussy, and Mussy won games, but he won too much. Rogers would have been a perfect guy to blow out after 3 years.
Yeah.
And, potentially better draft picks. But Rogers was from the Boston Celtics tree. In fact, he had been a head coach in Boston, but he had been an assistant, I believe it was, for quite some time to Casey Jones, who was so successful in Boston.
Yes.
So Rogers was the Celtics, right? Like the Celtics, the green, the passionate Celtics. They're going to come here. Their guy is going to come here. And then to your point, Rambis was the Lakers. Hey, the Lakers are going to, and they were both disasters.
By the way, speaking of the Phil Jackson sort of lineage, Jimmy Rogers, nice soft landing for him. So he gets fired from the Timberwolves, takes a year off, and then joins Phil Jackson's Bulls team for the second three-peat from 1995 through 1998.
He was a very good assistant coach. Great call, Phil. Great job, Phil.
Yeah, Mr. Jackson, can I get you your clipboard, Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Coffee? Can I turn the volume up on your meditation music, Mr. Jackson?
Do you need a ride home? All right, number 12. Number 12, you also mentioned his name. It is Randy Whitman.
Oh.
Who was also one of 7 coaches by the Wolves to be dismissed in season. Fired in 2008-9 with the team sitting at 4-15. Randy Whitman in 3 years, or 2.5, 143 games, 38-105, a 266 winning percentage.
Disaster. So bad. So I remember he had this weird tick because this was the Randy Whitman, the only full season he was coach was 2007, 2008. And a young aspiring media member, Phil Mackey, who was making $7 an hour at KFXN radio at the time. And I would go and sit in the first row of the media seats for all of those regular season games for like multiple years and just watch these train wrecks. And I'd go to the Randy Whitman press conferences. And he'd answer every question by like scratching his forehead, just he'd like slick the hair back a little bit, scratch he'd have this pained expression while he clawed at his forehead. So Randy, what happened there in the third quarter when the Lakers went on a 42-6 run? Yeah, I just feel like we just
Sounds
kind of lost him in
Woogie
transition there.
Something about Mary.
Yeah.
Woogie, what's wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, Randy Whitman. Oh my God. Okay, number 11. Who's number 11?
Number 11 could easily be like 13, but I tried to give this guy a bit of a break. Sidney Lowe.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple of years or portions of a couple of years. So he must have been kept as the full-time coach for a period. But
he
anyway,
was 93, 94.
Yeah.
He was, yep.
But anyway, 135 games, 33-102. His winning percentage actually worse than Witt, but I think Witt probably had better talent. So I'm giving Lowe a little bit of a break here. A winning percentage for Sid Lowe of 244.
Well, Sid Lowe had Christian Laettner. I
Yeah,
think he had, I'm just going to pull up that team real quick. So he had Christian Laettner, Isaiah Ryder.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Doug West, Michael Williams was still on that team.
Christian was okay, but a locker room cancer. JR, you never knew. Like, it was funny because if you go back now and watch JR's highlights, some of them are incredible, but you never knew if he was going to show up.
Yeah, he was not the most reliable. And then Chuck Person, Stacey King, Luke Longley before they traded him to the Bulls.
Remember the story when Chuck Person, who had been really good, Chuck Person was injured once. I forget if it was as a Wolf or not. He was, I'm not kidding you, on a flight the team was taking, on like takeoff, his seat like somehow snapped or moved and he hurt his back.
I don't remember that, but that sounds very Wolves.
That's Wolves. Yeah. Chuck Person. The Rifleman was good elsewhere. Okay, so now we're to the top 10. Wow. God help me. Number 10, Bill Blair.
Yep.
Fired during the course of the 95-96 season with a record of 6-14, the most predictable firing of all time because McHale inherited him, I believe, and kept him, but also had hired his, at the time, good friend, Flip Saunders, as the GM. And Flip, of course, was the coach. So this was inevitable. But the plug was pulled on the guy who became known as the Salty Sea Captain. Great vocabulary. He would thrive now in press conferences with F-bombs. 102 games, 27-75, a winning percentage of 265.
If I remember his first year, they actually were pretty competitive through like the first couple months, and then the wheels kind of came off. And I remember people being excited about, okay, Bill Blair's here to snap these guys into shape and mold these young Timberwolves. And now Bill Blair was Kevin Garnett's first head coach in the NBA. The first part of his second year, because KG was drafted in 95. Mm-hmm. And then the 95-96 season, Bill Blair got fired like a month and a half into the year, and then Flip Saunders took over.
Flip was like right there, like, okay, I'm set to go.
But Bill Blair was Kevin Garnett's first coach in the NBA. Okay.
All right. Number 9, Ryan Saunders.
It's painful to throw him on here, but
Ryan Saunders,
he was put into a really, really difficult situation.
And I'm giving him a break on that. I'm trying to like with Sid Lowe and with Ryan, I'm trying to distribute some breaks here because I think it does depend on at what point in time, like not only the roster that you inherited, but the situation into which you were thrust.
Yeah.
Ryan fired during the 2020-21 season with the team at 7-24, 137 games, 43 wins, and 94 defeats, a 314 win percentage. I will say this, that roster was not that bad.
Well, no, and then Chris Finch took it and they made a couple little additions, but Chris Finch took it, was more competitive with it, and then jumped to a 46 win mark the next year. Also, here's the crazy thing. So that was like 5 years ago now that Ryan Saunders was given that job. 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. He just turned 38 years old in April.
That was
He's going to get another shot at some point. And I think being on that Denver bench and winning a championship, being Malone's lead assistant, or not lead, but like Adelman's his lead assistant, right? But one of his right-hand men.
Yes.
He'll be like 41 years old in a few years, and he'll get another crack at it. And he might have a shot. But that was, in retrospect, everybody wanted the feel-good story of, wouldn't this be something if Ryan took over,
including Glenn,
what Flip started? Yeah.
Yeah. And Tibbs had been a maniac, right? And Saunders is a really good guy, and I think the difference there was, we're going to bring in the calm guy now, and it just didn't work out. All right, number 8, a guy who won too much, Bill Musselman. The initial coach of the Wolves, 2 years. As I said before, he survived 2 full years, which is incredible. Played veterans, milked wins where he shouldn't have, but God bless him, he couldn't help himself. 164 games, 51 wins, 113 defeats, a 311 win percentage. And I'm actually going to give him credit, despite the fact that he shouldn't have won as much. He found a way to win with a team that probably should have been much more akin to what Jimmy Rogers didn't accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you had Tony Campbell, you eventually had Doug West, Pooh, but you had a lot of guys off the street, essentially, CBA guys and expansion draft guys on those teams.
And until the Ricky Rubio, Kevin Love feisty teams in the early 2000 teens, Musselman oversaw the best win-loss record of any non-KG Wolves team. For the first 20 years of Wolves history, maybe the first 22 years of Wolves history. Mm-hmm. And KG was obviously part of 12 of those years, or 13. But Bill Musselman had the best record by far on a non-KG team, 29 wins. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Bill Musselman, man. And then Eric Musselman, the work he's done in college, just a great basketball coaching family.
Oh, they are. You talk about guys, Bill's dead now, but I mean, they were lifers. They thought about nothing but basketball. All right. Number 7, 2 stints. But no, it's not Flip Saunders. Kevin McHale.
Yeah.
Kevin McHale. Now, he in 2004-05 took over and went 19-12. And keep in mind,
we're coming.
I was gonna say that, and that team had some players too. So it's not great. It's not just as if it was great coaching. And then in 2008-09, he took over again, and this time went 20-43. So 94 games, 39-55, 415 win percentage. Got the opportunity after that, of course, when he got blown out here to coach the Rockets. I'm putting McHale, though, at number 7. I'm sure there are some folks who are upset at him to this day who would not put him that high.
Is it true that the second stint when they fired Randy Whitman for starting 4-15, this was 08-09, and I believe it's before David Kahn came in?
Yes, it is.
But is it true that Glenn Taylor basically told Kevin McHale, this is your mess, put a suit on and clean it up?
That was what was put out there, yeah.
Yeah. And the first time so it was the year after the Wolves went to the Western Conference Finals, but then they had aging Sprewell, aging Cassell. Sprewell rejected the 3-year, $21 million contract, and the chemistry was off. A couple of those key players went over the age cliff, and so they were Flip was 25-26.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It never should have been fired.
There is actually a Flagrant Howl's alternate universe show. What if they don't fire Flip the first time?
Yeah, they probably missed the playoffs short term because Kevin McHale came in and actually sparked them, and they almost came back and got to the playoffs. But
Or what if Glenn fires McHale and doesn't allow him to fire Flip?
and so Flip stays on as coach. Maybe Flip then takes over a dual role, or they bring in another Pobo. But that was a fork in the road for their relationship. When McHale fired Flip, it was never the same. Yeah. They never really patched it up in full before Flip passed away.
Nope.
So, okay.
All right. All right, number 6, again, situationally, this was impossible. So I'm giving him credit. Sam Mitchell. So Flip got sick and then passed, which was a shock at the time, because I believe when the Wolves put out the release that Flip was battling cancer, we were at the state fair, Phil, and it was basically this, hey, it should be fine, blah, blah, blah. And then, it got worse and worse. So right before the season starts, Flip passes, Sam takes the team. They go 29-53, 354 win percentage, a definite disappointment, but he also was coaching in an incredibly tough predicament.
Yeah, in 5 years, 6 years, maybe longer before that, he was the NBA Coach of the Year with Toronto.
Correct.
And he had a nice little couple years with Toronto. But I don't know, his personality always kind of rubbed people the wrong way as a coach.
Yeah.
It's weird that he went from NBA Coach of the Year to basically only coaching like a couple more years ever. And
he was super abrasive. But that year, that was a terrible season. Like that it sucked. It was so difficult. Number 5, Rick Adelman.
Oh, man.
230 games, 97 and 133, 422 win percentage. So parts of, or 3 years. The interesting thing is he actually got out because he retired. He didn't get fired. If you look back, I went and checked this out. Number 5, Rick did not get fired by the Wolves. He simply chose to step away.
He tapped out. Yeah. Man, he was a great NBA coach. He was you think about those late 90s, early 2000s Kings teams, the Portland Trailblazers that were winning 55, 60 games that went to the NBA Finals against Michael Jordan's Bulls, the second leg of the second season of the first leg of the three-peat.
Mm-hmm.
He has a resume, and even like he went to Houston between the Sacramento, Minnesota stints and was above 500 every year. But it felt like a retirement job for him when he was here. It felt like he was trying to get young Tubby. David Adelman. Yeah, it did. Because didn't we have Tubby was still there maybe too, right? I
think he was. But it felt like, hey, oh my God, they got Adelman. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those teams, man, because there was one year, I think it was the last year, 13-14, where they finished 40-42, but they had like the 7th best point differential in the entire NBA. Yes. And they blew leads and they just got
Ricky
outplayed.
Got hurt on his watch, right?
Yes.
The team that it was March, and I think there had been a lockout or a strike.
Yep.
And that team was actually playing well and was a potential playoff team. And then Ricky tore his knee up against the Lakers at Target Center when we were in spring training, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 2011-12 season, shortened season. They were right there, tied with the Lakers.
Unfortunate. All right, number 4. Switch. Tom Thibodeau.
Tibbs, let's go.
Tibbs.
How about that?
204 games, 97 and 107, so a 475 win percentage. He does have the distinction of being one of the few Wolves coaches who's coached in the playoffs, though. The series against Houston with Jimmy Butler on the team, and the Wolves went out in 5 games. Fired in 2018-19 after actually a win against the Lakers, with the Wolves sitting at 19-21. And I think it was more a case of, we are sick and tired of your crap. Tibbs, probably unfairly, I take away from him a little bit because he was also the basketball executive and some of his decisions ended up being questionable. But he is number 4. He is probably not as high on my list as some might have expected.
Well,
based on win percentage.
I mean, this is interesting. It's interesting. This is like when you watch the NBA draft lottery and you see, there's a team has made a jump into the top 3.
Yep.
And I think you'll get to who this person is at number 3. But yeah, Tom Thibodeau, one of the least likable figures if you rank these coaches based on likability. By the end, fans were done with them. A lot of people in the building and behind the scenes were done with them.
Yep.
but he can coach. I think the problem was giving him basically the keys to the entire building.
Which we didn't know at the time because we applauded it. It's not like we saw that, but then once you saw how he operated, you're like, this guy probably shouldn't be the chief executive too.
But you're seeing now in New York again, okay, Tom, just go coach.
Right.
And he produces playoff teams and winning teams. Okay.
Right.
Number
All right.
3.
Little bit of a surprise here, although it shouldn't be, because quite frankly, he is one of the employees in this franchise's history that was done wrong. You could write a country song about the third guy on my list because it's Dwayne Casey.
I love what you did here. This is great.
Dwayne bleepin' Casey. 122 games, 53 and 69. But the ridiculous thing is, in 2006 and 7, and this goes back to, I think, Glenn telling McHale, clean up your mess. I think it goes back to this. The Timberwolves are sitting at 20 and 20, and they fire him at 20 and 20. Now, if this was the Celtics, for instance, back then, and it's like, Dwayne Casey's not that good, but this is the Timberwolves, and basically, like, you can go through some monumental decisions that sent this team into a spiral of ineptitude and just being horse bleep. This is one of them. I'm putting Dwayne Casey partially as we're sorry because we screwed you, dude. And he went on, to coach. He is not a bad coach. Dwayne Casey is third above Tibbs on my list.
Real quick, because I know we have a recording schedule that leads us into Doogie and Purple Daily here behind the scenes. We have like 2 minutes left, but it was Kevin Garnett at the end of his run, and he was still one of the best players in the league. So you did have KG. But this is the rest of the rotation. Ricky Davis, Mark Blunt, Trenton Hassel, Mike James, Randy Foy, Marco Jaric, Craig Smith, Troy Hudson, Rashad McCants, Bracy Wright, Mark Madsen, Justin Reed, and Eddie Griffin. If you would have just go back to ask anyone, hey, 20 years ago, I'm going to give you a roster. 40 games into the season, what should the record be?
Right.
20 and 20? Pretty darn good.
Yes.
But they were still clinging to the Western Conference Finals run from a few years ago.
Ridiculous, though. Yeah. So Dwayne Casey is 3. Number 2, because I think when the contract extension was announced yesterday, there was, best coach in Wolves history. I love Finchy, but he's number 2.
Okay.
He is, he is 160 and 127 in 287 games over parts of 4 years. He is now 12 and 15 in the playoffs. He has done a great job. His story is not done. He might be number 1 on this list eventually, but he's not now because it's Flip still.
Yep, I agree with this.
Flip, 8 consecutive playoff berths. Knowing what we know now, I know that the first round exits in 7 of those seasons was frustrating, but for this team, that is damn good. Western Conference Finals in 2003-4, 11 or parts of 11 years total in 2 tours of duty as the Wolves coach, 819 games, 427 wins, 392 defeats. His win percentage, .591. Finchy's .557 in the regular season, and in 8 playoff appearances, 17 wins and 30 defeats. But Finch's story is yet to be completely written, but to me, it's Flip.
And Flip turned KG plus random dudes into 50-win teams on a regular basis.
Yes.
Where like Wally Zerbiak was your second leading scorer. There was a year where Troy Hudson was their third leading scorer.
Yeah.
And they were taking the Lakers to 6 games, like a dynasty Lakers team to 6 games in the playoffs. So I'm fine with making Finchy earn the number 1 spot here. Let's see what Finchy does for an encore after Western Conference Finals.
And Flip was damn good.
Yep. Flip was I think it's a little premature to say that Finch is the best coach. I know that Jim Pete says it and other smart people say it, maybe schematically, but he's got to build a resume before he passes Flip.
The moral of the story, though, is Dwayne Casey got screwed. Kids, if you want to take any lesson from Sports Dad in Timberwolves history, Dwayne Casey got jobbed.
Yes. Hey, how would you rank them if you are cruising around the YouTube comment section on the SKOR North YouTube channel? Let us know where the Sports Dad got it wrong. Hit us up on Twitter. Send us emails via the feedback tab in the SKOR North app. Those are 14 Timberwolves coaches ranked on this Timberwolves Lifestyle podcast.